Hello YouTube. I've been searching for the right place to vlog from. I've tried my bed. Of course I've already tried my desk. And I've tried out in the living area, but too public. But you may have noticed I was getting a little bit more outside each time. So I decided to vlog out of my backyard, where thankfully none of my family ever think to listen in on. And that sort of brings me what I want to talk about today, which is people listening in. But not in the normal way. I mean, thinking people are listening in the most unhealthy way possible. Checking your bed for electronic bugs. Tapping the walls to see if there are creatures in them. All those things. And I'm sorry to say, I've done that before. And nobody really knows why I'm on medication for it, but it seems to just come when it wants to and go when it wants to. And it's usually associated with me being in a period of high anxiety. And I'm sorry to say, I've done that before. And nobody really knows why I'm on medication for it, but it seems to just come when it wants to and go when it wants to. And it's usually associated with me being in a period of high anxiety. They call it psychotic features, and for a long time I interpreted that as having a psychosis. But thankfully I don't have psychosis. But it set me thinking about what would happen if I did have psychosis, or any other form of mental illness. Now, I do have some other mental illnesses, and that's okay, because mental illness is a subject that's quite dear to me, not in the way that I love mental illness, but I think it has interesting effects on people. It can make them stronger, it can crush them in my case. It can change their relationship with people. Now, about a year ago, I was diagnosed with depression. And before that, I'd known for some time that I was depressed. I'd practically self-diagnosed, but in this case, I was right. Now, self-diagnosis isn't generally a good thing, but it can point you in the right direction of a mental health professional. The trouble that a lot of people run into, though, is that these mental health professionals can sometimes be less than helpful. And I've had a few friends who had pretty bad experiences with the mental health system and school counselors and things like that. And it really gets to me. I think most of mental illness is speculation, and by that I mean nobody can know anything for sure, because it could just be mental hypochondria, or it could be something a lot more severe. And let me tell you, 9 times out of 10, it's not hypochondria. Now, my experiences with the mental health system have been pretty good. When I first got depressed, I went to my school counselor. She ran some questions by me. I answered them all in the correct ways that pointed to depression. The same day, she referred me to my GP. I went to the GP that same day. He referred to me a psychiatrist. And for about 6 months I went to see that psychiatrist, and I slowly started to get better. But after a while, and in hindsight, I realized that that psychiatrist that I went to, she probably wasn't the best person for me. And I can't quite put my finger on why that would be. I just think she prescribed me pills, and that was about all she did. We talked, but we didn't really work on anything. And that brings me to another thing I want to talk about, which is compatibility between people. Now, everything in life is about compatibility. You have to be compatible with your friends, with the people you're in serious relationships with, and especially with mental health professionals. Because if you don't click with them, they can actually make you worse. Now, my psychiatrist didn't make me worse, but I don't think she made me better. I think I just started to get better by myself, but then I can't exactly pinpoint when, but things all started to go downhill. I met someone who will probably be watching this, and she might not know this, but she introduced me to the concept of self-harm. Now, I don't blame her for this. I think she had her own stuff she's trying to deal with, and is still trying to deal with. But I think that was where the idea for self-harm came from. And for a while I was cutting. I kept this a secret from everyone, because whenever I tried to tell someone, they would invariably do what I thought was ratting me out to the school counsellor or my psychiatrist or my parents. And that's where that paranoia comes into play. It wasn't just thinking that people were watching or that I was going to die. It was not trusting anyone. And when you don't have anyone to trust, you can't trust yourself at all. Because the minute you stop trusting is the minute you become your worst enemy. I think I'll talk more about this in future videos, because I think it's important for people to hear my point of view on things. But I just want to say that I'm seeing a different therapist now, and I'm quite happy with him. I just wish everyone could have as smooth an experience with the mental health system as I did. And it's a real tragedy of life that not everything works out as you hope. And most of the time, things will be imperfect. In fact, all of the time, things will be imperfect in some way. But a lot of the time, that's okay. But other times, it can be deadly. And that's something I don't really want to talk about today, but I will talk about it. So, Ivy, I leave you there.